and welcome to CYC News for the 30th of September 2018 and the 20th of 17:35 am. I'm Justina Twados. In today's headlines, Australia's ABC in turmoil amid government interference. Iran's Rouhani dismisses Trump's threats, saying America is alone. Germany convicts members of Western-backed Syrian opposition for war crimes. Russia upgrades Syria's defense system. Iran accuses Saudi Arabia, UAE of funding military parade attackers. Obesity set to become leading cause of cancer in women. Germany beats Turkey to host Euro 2024. But first to Australia, where the country's national broadcaster, the ABC, has lost both its chairman and managing director in less than a week, amid staff protests over concerns of government interference in its editorial independence. The Australian Broadcasting Corporation, one of the country's largest media organisations, is publicly funded by the government but intended to be politically independent and unbiased. The trouble began on Monday when the ABC board unexpectedly fired Managing Director Michelle Guthrie, claiming it was not in the broadcaster's best interest for her to continue. Not long after the announcement was made, Fairfax Media reported the existence of emails from ABC chairman Justin Milne to Guthrie urging her to fire a senior economics journalist because the government hates her. It later emerged he had also pushed her to sack the broadcaster's political editor because he was unpopular with Liberal national coalitions. Neither journalist was fired from the ABC and both continued to work for the broadcaster. ABC journalists across the country held mass meetings on Wednesday expressing outrage at the attempted interference in their work and calling for the chairman's resignation. The next day, Milne announced he would be quitting his role, leaving two of the broadcaster's most senior positions vacant. Milne said, "I feel that the interests of the ABC have always been uppermost in my mind. There was absolutely no interference in the independence of the ABC by the government." Prime Minister Scott Morrison said on Twitter the ABC's board and its chairman had made the right call. The tweet read, "Time for the ABC to resume normal transmission, both independently and without bias. That is what Australia's taxpayers pay for and deserve." To Iran now, where President Hassan Rouhani has said that the United States is the real problem, an isolated violator of international laws led by a team of political and diplomatic novices that is earning the world's disapproval. Rouhani spoke a day after Trump and his senior officials criticized Iran for its actions in the Middle East and called on other nations at the UN General Assembly to help squeeze and isolate Tehran. At a press conference in New York, Rouhani said other world leaders also told him they disapprove of President Donald Trump's decision to pull out of the nuclear deal, which eased sanctions on Iran in exchange for curbs on its nuclear program. He said today it became clear that America is alone. They refer to American action as an incorrect action. Iran's intent is to ensure that the United States of America abides by laws and stops bullying, stops pressuring, maintaining commitments, and adheres to the United Nations Security Council resolution. To Europe now, and a German court sentenced a member of a Western-backed Syrian armed opposition group to life imprisonment on Monday for war crimes, according to court documents. The convict, identified as Ibrahim A., was found guilty of torture and killing persons protected under international humanitarian law, as well as murder, extortionist, kidnapping, and the commission of war crimes under the International Criminal Code. Court documents indicated 43-year-old commanded a 150-member armed group known as Ghuraba as-Sham, which operated under the Free Syrian Army umbrella group. Over the course of Syria's nearly 8-year war, Western nations have aided and trained members of the FSA, who have been considered moderate opposition, amid a rebel landscape that has become increasingly dominated by extremists such as ISIS and Al-Qaeda. According to the Upper District Court in Dusseldorf, Ibrahim's militia controlled neighborhoods in northeastern Aleppo, where they were allegedly took part in plundering and abducting and captivating people, and torturing and mutilating members of his militia. Allegations of torture and arbitrary detentions are rampant on both sides of Syria's war. International right groups have repeatedly documented widespread physical abuse and mass executions in Syrian government prisons since the start of the war in 2011. The Syrian Network for Human Rights reports that as many as 81,000 people have been forcibly disappeared after arrests by the Syrian regime. Russia's defense ministry has said the system would be transferred to Syria in the next week. The ministry said that Israel was solely to blame for bringing down the Il-20 aircraft 2 weeks ago. Russia's military also said that Israel provided misleading information about the airstrike over a military hotline. The two countries follow a deconfliction mechanism, keeping each other informed about their military actions in the country. Israel's military denied the accusations and said it followed established protocols in communicating with Moscow, presenting full information about the incident to Russia in an after-action review. In a phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu held the Syrian government and its Iranian allies responsible for downing the Russian plane. In the phone call, he said transferring advanced weapon systems into irresponsible hands will increase the dangers in the region, adding Israel will continue to defend its security and its interests. Returning to Iran, and the country's supreme leader, Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei, has accused Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates of financing the perpetrators of last Saturday's deadly attack on a military parade in Ahvaz, and threatened to harshly punish the masterminds. According to the reports, this cowardly act was committed by the same people who are saved by the Americans whenever they are trapped in Syria and Iraq, and whose hands are in the pockets of Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps had previously said that no effort would be spared in the hunt for those responsible for the terror attack that killed 29 people and wounded 70 others. The IRNA reported casualties included both military personnel and civilians. The Revolutionary Guards accused Saudi Arabia of supporting the attack's perpetrators, with Saudi Arabia yet to respond to the allegations. Saturday's parade was part of a nationwide celebration in Iran to mark the 30th anniversary of the end of its 8-year war with Iraq. To some health news, and obesity is set to overtake smoking as the leading preventable cause of cancer in women in the United Kingdom. According to a new report by Cancer Research UK, it is estimated that 23,000 British women will suffer from obesity-related cancers by 2035. Just 2,000 fewer than the number of cases caused by smoking. The charity found that by 2043, obesity will become the most common cause of cancer in women if current trends continue. According to the British Journal of Cancer, smoking is currently linked to 12.4% of cases in UK women, compared to 7.5% that are caused by obesity. The gap between the two causes in men is wider because more British men smoke, with 17.7% of cancers among men caused by smoking compared to 5.2% by obesity. The charity analysed cancer incidence data between 1979 and 2014 to make the projections and use the results as a further call for national campaigns and legislations to reduce obesity. Linda Bold, Cancer Research UK's prevention expert, said obesity is a huge public health threat right now, and it will only get worse if nothing is done. And in sport, Germany has won the right to host the 2024 European Football Championships, fending off competition from Turkey. 17 UEFA Executive Committee members voted in favour of the German bid at the organisation's headquarters in Nyon, Switzerland. The decision is another blow to Turkey's dream of hosting a major sporting event. It has previously failed bids to host Euro 2008, 2012 and 2016 and the 2020 Olympic Games. The 2024 edition will see a return to the tournament's traditional format, with Euro 2020 being hosted in 12 different cities across the continent to mark 60 years of the competition. And that's all for CYC News. A reminder that you can watch this news bulletin again throughout the week on YouTube. I'm Yusina Twadros from the CYC studios in Sydney, Australia. Have a good night.